In the history of the world of Naruto, we've been introduced to multiple iconic villains in the story, but as soon as we got towards the end of the Naruto journey, one thing that really became a point of contention was the fact that Sasuke ended up getting pardoned in Naruto chapter 699, which came out in fall of 2014, and then when we jump ahead several months later into spring 2015, when Naruto Gaiden, the 7th Hokage, and the Scarlet Spring drop, which is better known to a lot of you guys as being the Shin Uchiha arc from Boruto's anime, it led to a lot of people crying foul when they saw that it wasn't just Orochimaru and Sasuke who were walking around free, but it was also Kabuto, who is now operating a village orphanage inside of the Lane of Fire. And there were people who said way back then that this was the most cookie cutter shonen cliche thing ever, where the villains get off with a slap on the wrist because of the power of friendship and the power of second chances and the power of forgiveness. While I personally think that this was a beautiful conclusion to Kabuto's character as a manga reader, I did want to set my own bias out of the way and take a very objective look at Kabuto's character and the crimes that he committed, and look at whether or not he should truly be given the second chance that he did get, or if at the very least the dude should have done like 10 to 15 years in prison, or dare I say even gotten his head placed on an executioner's block and had his head chopped off for all of his crime. Basically, we're gonna put Kabuto on trial here. Being blunt, I do think that there is a case that could be made against Kabuto being allowed to be the Mary Poppins of the Hidden Leaf Village, and I think it's actually a pretty strong one. While Kabuto did start off as someone who came from very humble and tragic beginnings, being a child raised in an orphanage by a loving nun, until Orochimaru and Danzo strolled in there and they changed his life forever by making Kabuto a spy and reactivating Kabuto's adopted mother as a shinobi, sending her out on missions and eventually trying to kill her by using Kabuto to kill her and tie up any loose ends, with the best case scenario being that they killed each other. It's a sad upbringing to say the least, and one that does have to be factored in because he was someone who was truly failed by the shinobi system, and had things played out differently, had he been raised in a different way, had he lived a much different life, he could have been an entirely different person. Dare I say he could have been a great, more productive citizen meant to add real value to the Lane of Fire. However, that's not what happened. He wasn't given a fair shake, and it led to him walking down a very shady path down through the darkest corners of the shinobi world, where he would commit a series of petty and major crimes. Treason against the multiple ninja villages by pretending to be a shinobi in various villages, from the Hidden Cloud Village to Hidden Stone Village, all while sending information back to Danzo, serving directly underneath Sasori, the man who killed the 3rd Kazekage and was a member of the Akatsuki organization, serving directly under Orochimaru, a man who would go down in history as being the man who killed the 4th Kazekage and the 3rd Hokage. Kabuto not only betrayed the Hidden Leaf Village or Orochimaru's Sound Village, but he also played a major role in the Operation Konoha Crush, which saw the destruction of a large chunk of the Hidden Leaf Village and claimed the life of the village leader in the 3rd Hokage. He then went on to attempt to murder the 5th Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village when he was battling against Tsunade on Orochimaru's behalf. Throughout the years as a rogue ninja of the Hidden Leaf Village, which in of itself is a death sentence since that warrants execution on sight and disposal of his body, Kabuto engaged in multiple battles against Konoha shinobi, from the battle at Tenchi Bridge to killing multiple members of Anko's team when they were tracking him down to try and kill him, and even kidnapping Anko herself and kidnapping Yamato, which the second offense is a pretty huge one, given that Yamato, by carrying the Kekkei Genkai for wood release, is a valuable asset to the Hidden Leaf Village. It's important to remember that entire ninja wars have been fought over Kekkei Genkai in the past. Wars have been fought for less prominent Kekkei Genkai in universe when it comes to protecting military power via the Kekkei Genkai. Losing Yamato was a huge offense because wood release can be used to subdue actual Biju. When Kabuto wasn't battling against Konoha shinobi, the guy was also lurking through the various ninja villages, desecrating the graves of the fallen shinobi by grave robbing. The guy was out here slithering his way over to Obito's hideout to form the alliance with him that he did by significantly bolstering Obito's manpower, who had just declared war on the 5 major nations. Kabuto was the one who gave Obito access to Edo Tensei, a personalized army of some of the most powerful and dangerous shinobi to have ever existed in the Naruto world. They were now at Obito's fingertips to be used against the Ninja Alliance. After he attacked the Tsuchikage and he stole Yamato, he used Yamato to strengthen the White Zetsu army to make them better suited by combat. By this one action alone, Kabuto became directly responsible for tens of thousands of deaths during the first day of the Fourth Great Ninja War, because he was the one who made those Zetsu strong enough to carry out the dastardly action of attacking and killing Alliance members. Kabuto had figurative blood on his hands from the literal blood being shed by the White Zetsu army and his own Edo Tensei army. Not only that, but Kabuto is the one responsible for reanimating Madara Uchiha, a crime in of itself, someone who by himself almost single-handedly wiped out an entire division by himself and was the true antagonist for the Shinobi Alliance during the war once he arrived. All those other enemies up until that point, they were just basically random NPCs that they had to fight in order to level up for the big boss. Madara was that big floor boss that everyone gangs up on. The terror of Madara Uchiha was something so insane that we learned in the Kakashi Hiden Lightning in the Frozen Sky story that even a full year after the war ended, the Shinobi Alliance was downright mortified at how much damage Madara did on his own, with many of them, including the very Kage who fought against Madara, still finding it hard to believe that one man could have this much power at his disposal, where the collective 5 nations weren't able to bring him down and they had to rely on Naruto and Sasuke to even stand a chance against him. With this one action, Kabuto directly crushed the Shinobi Alliance for years after the war ended because he crushed their fighting spirit. In the time after the Fourth Ninja War, where people like Gingo, the antagonist of the Shikamaru Hiden, a cloud drifting through the silent story, which did get adapted into the Naruto Shippuden anime, people like Gingo saw Madara's vision of a world without winners and losers and thought that they needed to take the necessary steps on their own in order to achieve that world that Madara himself envisioned. Some people carried out literal massacres like we saw in Kakashi Hiden Lightning in the Frozen Sky. Other people like Gingo tried to make their own shinobi nation to overcome the 5 nations themselves. By reviving Madara, who did successfully cast the Infinite Tsukuyomi, Kabuto essentially became an accomplice to a global act of terrorism, which, stacked on top of the charge of him being one of the main antagonists of the Fourth Ninja War that the Alliance fought against, Kabuto does have some blood on his ledger. There does come to a point where you have to ask and you have to say that his terrible upbringing, where he was manipulated by people like Danzo and Orochimaru and Sasori, it did lead to him doing a lot of things that he did. But here's the thing, Kabuto at the end of the day, he's still a genius. Kabuto isn't dumb enough to have sat there and never made the decisions for himself without knowing what he was getting into. He knew exactly what was going on. He thought about his actions and he still moved forward with his actions because he had his own goals that he was seeking out to fulfill. Since this is a pseudo courtroom setting and I'm currently the lawyer on the opposite side of Kabuto, pressing all these charges and trying to paint a narrative for him to get you, the jury, to convict him. If this was a court of law, a prosecution would refer to this as being a mens rea, which is where someone possesses the intent of knowledge of wrongdoing that leads to a crime being carried out. It's a willful action purposely guided in a knowing way that leads to reckless or negligent behavior that results in a crime. Kabuto checks off that box, and he also checks off the actus reus definition of a crime, which is the actual crime itself being physically carried out. So not only did he think about the crimes he was doing, he followed through with the crimes himself. He was not out of his mind. He was not insane. Kabuto knew exactly what he was doing. You put all that together and you had the intention of a crime being committed and you had the action to do said crime. Kabuto is directly responsible for tens of thousands of people being dead. There are tens of thousands little small children who wake up every morning now knowing that mommy and daddy aren't coming home because Kabuto was the one responsible for killing them. He's also directly responsible for violating the very laws of nature itself by using forbidden jutsu to summon the souls of the dead. But not just any forbidden jutsu, he used a forbidden jutsu that requires a living sacrifice. So before the war even started, he was collecting bodies. Think of your favorite reanimated shinobi, whichever one you like from the Ninja War. Kabuto snatched up some random granny who was watering her plants outside, some innocent child playing with their toys in the street. Some random fodder shinobi returning home from a mission, and he used them as a living sacrifice in order to perform the Edo Tensei to bind the souls of those dead shinobi to the body of those who are unfortunate to be the human sacrifice. Do those lives not matter anymore? We know that Uchiha lives matter. We know that Jinchuriki lives matter. But what about these lives? Do they not matter anymore? Now, on the other side, you have people who mention the line dropped in Naruto Shippuden's anime adaptation of the Sasuke's Shinden story of Sunrise, where Orochimaru tells Sasuke that people such as himself, Sasuke, and Kabuto are only allowed to walk freely, but with restrictions, instead of being locked away or even executed like in older times, because those in power, the 5 Kage at the time, they understood that in order for there to be peace, there will be a need for people such as them to be kept on a tight leash and dispatched whenever there are threats that go too powerful to be stopped by through conventional means, and that the ninja villages will need dogs to be unleashed to eliminate said threats that are in the way of peace that doesn't track back to the 5 major nations themselves. Those dogs are obviously Sasuke, Kabuto, and Orochimaru. While it can be argued that Kabuto, by being given a second chance at life via the running the orphanage, is the best way for him to redeem himself, since he's given help to young children and doing so with the help of his adopted brother, it's worth asking, is that truly a fair trade-off for Kabuto given everything that he's done up to this point? Not like the guy committed some minor meager offense, committed treason, committed espionage, committed open war against the 5 nations, he committed genocide, but the guy barely spends a year in prison and then is left out to his own devices to play sprinkle the holy water on the children in the orphanage. And that's assuming, of course, he took Orochimaru's habits of playing hide the snake, which we'll just hope that Kabuto Poppins isn't touching minors in a way that makes Hisoka from Hunter x Hunter get jealous. But is it truly a fair trade-off for Kabuto, or did Kabuto deserve more? I think when you lay out all the evidence, Kabuto at the very least should have life in prison right now. That's actually going to be my question to you guys, the jury.